Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now, have you ever found yourself mindlessly scrolling on your phone for hours on end, whether it be in bed, laying on the couch, maybe you're even like at your computer desk or something, and you just don't know or have anything else to do, so you just spend your time doom scrolling on either TikTok, Instagram, whatever social media you choose. What if I told you that I could give you 25 alternative things to do instead of mindlessly scrolling on your phone for the th day in a row, you know? We don't always want to be glued to our phone, but sometimes we don't know what else to do with our time that would give us the same, I guess, like dopamine hit and dopamine rush that being on your phone gives you, that instant gratification that we get from it. So I am here to share with you 25 things that could be considered, you know, productive. They do things, and they also should provide you with that dopamine hit that you're looking for without having to expose yourself to your phone for that long. And the reason you don't want to be exposed to your phone for too long is because there are negative effects of excessive phone use, as we've seen doctors come out and say. You know, there's studies that say that excessive phone use can cause eye strain, so your eye muscles are working overtime to look at a screen all the time. It also messes up your sleep. I can speak from personal experience that I sleep worse at night when I scroll on my phone before bed, because you're being exposed to that blue light and it's tricking your mind to thinking that you're going to be awake or that it's some kind of light, so you should be awake longer rather than kind of winding you down for bed. And it can really cause some problems with sleep and not letting you get your REM sleep, which is the most important sleep cycle. Something else it can lead to is posture problems. Now, when you're staring down at a screen like all day like this, you naturally are going to kind of get something on the back of your neck where you just are constantly basically straining it, and your body's going to account for that, and over time you're just going to have a lot of problems with your posture, and you're not going to have that nice stand-up posture that we all want. Something else that is a negative side effect is it can actually lead to more anxiety and depression. Again, I can only speak from personal experience, but I know that constantly comparing yourself to other people on social media can be hugely detrimental to your mental health, and it can just lead to a whole bevy of problems that you don't need. Not to mention that constantly exposing yourself to that dopamine that you get from constantly looking at things that you want to look at makes it so that you don't get as much dopamine from other things that you do, and certain things start to feel more dulled. Additionally, which I think we have all seen as the spike in numbers for people with like ADD and ADHD rises with children, and as we're seeing more like iPad kids, you know, as they're called, is reduced attention span. You know, we are seeing all of these teachers starting to quit their lifelong dream and jobs of teaching because they can't handle the reduced attention span of the children. And that's mostly due to excessive electronic use. So there's just a whole bevy of problems that go into excessive phone use. So that's why I am here to provide you with some alternative activities. And the reason I did 25 was because I wanted to provide a good mixture depending on whatever your forte is. There's like some creative things, some physical things, you know, some things that work your mind, whatever you like to do. Hopefully you'll find some interest in one of these things. All right, so number one is a creative hobby, and it's doing something artistic. Now, this can be very broad, but the kind of art that I'm talking about is making physical art in the traditional sense. So painting, drawing, you know, using colored pencils, oil pastels, any kind of medium that you want can be super fun. You can grab yourself a cheap sketchbook from literally the Dollar Tree along with some colored pencils or something if you don't want to spend a lot of money. Or if you already have like just a pen in your house, which most of us do, and like a sheet of paper, you can literally just use that, and that would still give you that creativity and let out your creativity a little bit, you know? Number two is a physical hobby, which is playing some kind of sport. Now, this is easier for some of us than others, especially if you have like a yard that you can use. It's a lot easier. Obviously, some of us have like basketball hoops and stuff, which would make it a lot easier to play like basketball, obviously. But you really don't need too much stuff if you don't want to use too much stuff. You can buy like a cheap sports set, again, from like the Dollar Tree, and just play with that. You can literally buy like a cheap tennis racket and a tennis ball, and you can just hit it against the wall if that's what you want. And it'll still help you get some exercise, help improve if you ever want to do that like more traditionally, like on a team or with other people. And I know that pickleball is really taking off right now. I, for one, am kind of a pro, don't mean to brag, but if there's any sports that are kind of calling your name, definitely just try them out, you know? And I know it's easier said than done, but there are ways to do it that aren't necessarily costly. Number 3 is actually a culinary hobby, and this is to bake something. So I, for one, really like baking. I know it's not everybody's forte. Some people like it, some people hate it. I would recommend just starting off really simple, like just getting one of those mixes, like pre-baked mixes, and just baking that way, and then enjoying the fruits of your labor afterwards. That's one of the best parts about baking, is being able to do it all, and then after you get to finally try it, and then that's the best part. We all know. But it doesn't have to be anything too special, but if you do end up liking it, you can, you know, buy other things that are more like extra baking, like at home, from scratch baking, if that's something that you're into. But there's also really easy ways to do it, and there's so many recipes on the internet. So if you're gonna use your phone, you can look up these recipes just to do it whenever you want, basically. All right, so 4 and 5 are both physical hobbies once again. Number 4 is dancing. Now, I really like dancing. I know that not everybody likes it, but if you want to incorporate more of like an exercise aspect, you can find like dance workouts online that are fun, and you still get to like dance to music, but they also are incorporating like workouts. Or you can just look up choreographies on YouTube and follow those. You could just turn on some music and dance. You could buy Just Dance. Like, there's so many ways to dance, and there's so many ways to kind of move your body around. And this kind of ties in to number 5, which is exercising. So again, going off of the dancing, there's so many different routes you could take with exercise. I, for one, am not like a traditional like weightlifting person. I really like Pilates, I really like yoga, I really like bar, things like that that include almost more of a like stretching aspect and more of like a kind of mastering certain moves aspect, and the lengthening of the body is something I really like. I don't really want to look like bulky. So whatever you're after, and it doesn't even matter about aesthetics, it literally just matters about how you feel. So if you just want to like feel good, then just do some stretches, because stretches always feel good. So, or you can find, I know there's really intense, there's so many different workouts out there. There's like pole dancing, if you're into that, no shame, I would do it if I could. I know there's like music fitness classes. I think I took one time that was like a drumming class, and you use 2 drumsticks, but it's like incorporated into exercise. That was really cool. And then, I mean, there's just so many, there's like an endless amount of things. You can even incorporate like the sports thing into this. I mean, like, you know, running on a basketball court is exercising. So if you're doing that, or you can like get really into biking, like cycling, roller skating is a good exercise. There's so many different routes to go down, and that's what I think is one of the most fun parts, is just experimenting with different kinds of movement and just finding what your body likes best. Okay, so number 6 is technically still using a screen, but not necessarily your phone screen, so hear me out. Number 6 is just getting into any kind of new TV show. So we're at an age where even if you watch cable, which I know a lot of us don't, but even if you do, there's plenty of new shows constantly on there, new and old shows if you like an old one, or if you want to discover a new one. There's so many channels, and I know a lot of us do pay for additional services such as like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Peacock's a big one, I think. There's just so many that you can find something that's within your niche and that you really like really quickly. Like if you are into, I don't know, there's just so many different things. If you're into like cooking, just search cooking in the search bar. If you're into like fashion, search fashion in the search bar, and I guarantee you will get shows that are within your niche that you will probably be interested in, and you will probably be hooked pretty quickly. And it's still something new that you can engage with that gives you that dopamine rush without having to look down at your phone the whole time. So number 7 is I guess you could call it a physical hobby. It is a little bit more, it doesn't have to be, but it could be a little bit more costly than the others. And that is going shopping. I mean, obviously I am a huge supporter of this one. I love shopping so much. I always want to do it. It gives me the biggest dopamine rush ever. But I know it's not everybody's forte. But you don't have to buy something. And I know, trust me, I'm not the one to go shopping with, because I will encourage you to buy everything you see. But if you just go by yourself and you have good self-control, you can just go to different stores and kind of look at what you want. Something that I like doing sometimes if I really don't have the money to spend is I will take pictures of the things I like, and then when I get home on my computer, I'll add them to some kind of wish list and set up notifications so that when that thing goes on sale, I can get it on a sale price, because everything eventually goes on sale. Nothing is ever its highest price forever. So that's a little trick if you wanted to do that and you wanted to like still window shop and stuff. But just walking through stores and walking through like a mall is just such, I don't know, it's just such a vibe, you know? You gotta get yourself like a little coffee drink before, and then you go in and you shop and you look around and you see a bunch of other girls doing the exact same thing that you are, and it's just good vibes all around. So number 8 is journaling. And this one is very, very broad. So there's so many different ways you could do this. You can just write what you feel, like just word vomit on a page, which sometimes is really beneficial for our mental health. You can get guided journals that come with like pre-done prompts that you can answer. I know like the 5-year journal is a really popular one. And there's tons of journals out there that just like kind of have you do reflections at the end of the night, and then they usually have you do like planning at the beginning of the day, and it just kind of gets all your thoughts down on paper and into one set place so that you know what your intention is for the day and what you feel you accomplished in the day, which can lead to a lot of more confidence in a day, because sometimes we don't feel like we really do anything in our days, but when we actually write it down and think, yes, I actually did do this today, I did this today, even if it's something as simple as like getting dressed. I mean, you know, for some of us that's hard, so, and I totally get it. So just being able to vocalize that and put that on paper and be able to look back and say, look how far I've come from that, is really beneficial. Number 9 is coloring. Now this is one of my favorite hobbies. Besides shopping, coloring is something that I do so often. And it really depends on what you're into, because they do make adult coloring books that are like, I think they're called mandalas, and they're like these intricate patterns that you can color in. And again, you could do this with like, I like to use markers, like adult markers. They're like alcohol markers or like the felt tip pens, stuff like that. But you can really use anything. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little spicy, I'll use some colored pencils. I usually don't though, because those are, the color pencils that I have are expensive and I don't want to waste them on a coloring book. But I will literally just sit there and color while I'm watching a show, listening to a podcast, you know, eating a snack, anything you want to do. It is so calming and relaxing, especially for my anxiety girlies out there. It is so nice to just be able to color things, and you don't even have to stay in lines. There's no rules to coloring, you know, especially adult coloring. So just buy a cheap coloring book. I go back and forth, because I like the adult coloring books for what they are in terms of like, I like to do the patterns and stuff, but I also really like, I'll buy children's coloring books and color those in with just the simple designs, because that for me is fully turning off my brain, just because I'm a little bit like a little perfectionist in me. When I do the mandalas, I want them to be perfectly like reflective, so I want the pattern to be consistent throughout the entire design, and that could cause my brain to work a little bit, which is fine sometimes. But sometimes if I just am like, I've had a long day, I just want to color, turn off my brain, you can literally just grab some markers and a kid's coloring book. Make sure to put a page in between the other pages so that it doesn't bleed through, and color away, and it's so calming. Now number 10 is to organize / clean your room / house. Now, I know that this is easier said than done and that a lot of us don't exactly want to organize or clean instead of doing what we wanted to do, which was go on our phones. But speaking from personal experience, I know that sometimes going on our phones is kind of an escape from something that we don't want to do. So it's a lot easier to just get that done and then be able to move on to things that you do want to do. And that way you'll feel so much better. Because I don't know about you guys, but I feel guilt if I don't do something. So like, if I know I have to do something, but I'm like, oh, well, I'll do it later. Like, I'll just, you know, do this and tell them. I'll just feel guilt the whole time and be like, oh, I really should be doing that, but I really don't want to. Like, maybe that's just me because I'm a really anxious person. But save yourself that trouble, save yourself the guilt, and just do what you need to do. If that's clean, you can clean. If that's organizing, you can organize. And it's so satisfying to have things be in their correct places. There's nothing worse than coming in from like a day of work, a day of school, and seeing that your room is just in disarray and that you still have to do so much before you can get like comfortable. It's better to just deal with it now. Just deal with it. Number 11 is reading a book. Now, me personally, I like physical books, but I know that a lot of people like audiobooks, and I know that a lot of people like Kindles and like the little reading tablets. I think there's only Kindle. I thought there was another brand, but I'm blanking on that. But just being able to read a book, and also Kindles have, I know, like they have more of like a tinted darker screen than like a phone does. It's not really the same blue light because it's made to look like a book. So you're not really getting the same negative side effects that you would with a phone. And getting into a book is kind of similar to watching like a new show. You need to give it a chance, because me personally, sometimes I'll just give up after like a chapter and be like, oh, this book's so boring. But if I usually get to about chapter 2 or 3, that's when I'm like, okay, this kind of hooked me a little bit. You just need to give it a chance and keep trying. Again, it's really important to find books that you are interested in at first. Like, if you're not somebody who reads regularly, don't start with like a fiction book. Don't start with like something that's like fantastical or, you know, like made up. Like, don't start with any of that. Unless you're like really into like romance or something like that, then you can do one of those. But I would recommend just reading something that you're genuinely really interested in. Like, if you're interested in Greek mythology, get a book about Greek mythology and you'll be interested in it. Anything that can keep your attention on the book instead of straying is going to help you to get better at reading, and then that's also going to help you enjoy reading more. Now, number 12 is trying something new, which I know a lot of the previous ones that I was talking about are kind of trying new things for a lot of us. However, what I mean by this is taking some kind of online course or watching some kind of tutorial on something. So if there's something that you really want to learn to do, I guarantee you can learn it without having to spend money. Unless, okay, unless it's something like you want to become a doctor, then you kind of need to go to school for that. But because I don't want somebody operating on me that learned on YouTube how to, you know, do a heart transplant personally. But for most things that we want to do, especially like at home, we can literally look up tutorials or look up a course. So getting back to like even the other things that we were talking about, like for example, if you want to learn how to like journal for gratitude and for practicality purposes, look up tutorials. If you want to learn how to like draw certain, I don't know, anime characters, or if you want to learn how to like paint like Van Gogh did, there are tutorials for that. There's tutorials for everything. And if you want to get even more into it, there's online courses for specific things. If you want to, and now this is more like geared towards like school. I mean, I guess like more school subjects rather than just learning how to do one simple thing. But you can find courses. I know that Khan Academy offers a lot of completely free and very educational courses. They have like financial literacy, they have tons of math, tons of English, they have tons of like lifestyle, I guess you would call it, like learning how to do everyday things as you're like getting older. Anything that you want to learn is within your hands and within your grasp, and you can easily learn it if you just put in a little bit of effort. Now, number 13 is DIY projects, and this sounds a lot more like big than it is. To do a DIY project is literally the easiest thing in the world. There's so many different ways you could go with it, but you could literally do something as simple as like take a clear phone case and paint something on it, or draw something on it, or even add some like colored paper to the inside of it just to make it a little bit more interesting. Like, personalizing things around you is one of my favorite things to do, because I just like things to be to represent me. You know what I'm saying? Something I really like to do, now I know this isn't very common, but I actually like to bedazzle things. So I'll take like this little clay tool and some little beads that you can get like on Amazon, and I will just bedazzle things around me, and it just adds that little bit of sparkle, and it makes it more exciting. And it's all about like romanticizing your life and just making the little things less mundane and making you a happier person. Now, number 14 is photography. I don't know as much about this one, only the basics of like taking photos for Instagram pretty much, or taking videos for TikTok. However, I know that there's a lot of different things that you can do with photography, especially the photo editing is like where it's at. It's also a great freelance thing to do if you are looking for extra money on the side. I know a lot of people like to do photos on the side, and there's so many occasions where people need photos. You know, there's weddings, graduations, birthdays, I mean, anniversaries, anything like that. People want photographers at, and especially if you're just starting out and not charging a lot, you'll probably get a lot of clients. So if you wanted to get into that, I think that's a great idea. I think people that take pictures and like are really into photography and really into like getting the camera tools and getting, you know, the editing software and all that are really cool. I don't know a ton about it, so I can't really speak on it. I know like Photoshop, that's about it. And even that I'm not really too like well versed in, but it's again something you can easily learn how to do, and you don't need something super expensive. We have such nice cameras on our phones nowadays that you can literally start with that and just see how you like to edit photos and how you like to make things look. And I think that'd be a really fun use of time. Now, number 15 is catching up with friends. Now, I'm sure a lot of us aren't in my boat, but I don't really have any friends. However, if you do, you should definitely catch up with them or hang out with them. Life happens. I know that not everybody has a ton of friends. I know that everybody is definitely not on the same schedule with their friends if they do have them, which I could totally relate to, but just setting aside time to be able to see people who make you feel good is so important. Even family, if you don't see your family on a regular basis, setting aside time to go see your family is super important to staying grounded, one, and also just making sure that you're remembering that there are people around you that love you. I think that's a super important thing. Now, number 16 is board games. Now, this one, again, is kind of dependent on if you have somebody to play them with. I think there are single-player board games. I mean, something as simple as, like, I guess solitaire is a card game, but, like, that's single-player. You know, you could do that by yourself. You could also do, now this kind of goes against the screen thing, but if you wanted to, you could do some kind of online. I wouldn't recommend using your phone because that's kind of the whole point of the video, but you could go on like a desktop or maybe even a tablet or something and do like online board games, and then you don't actually need another person there because somebody else could do it. Like you'd be against like computers and CPUs and stuff. But I love board games. I think that'd be really fun. Number 17 is meditating. So I don't know, again, a lot about this one. I've tried it a couple times and I just don't know if I'm doing it wrong or if it's just not for me, but I'm not great at like getting myself to think of nothing. It's kind of hard for me because my mind is constantly going. But if you can get into it, and you can even get like an app for this that guides you through it, or you can watch a video, or I think they even like make books about it. So any of the ways that you want to do it, you can, or you could just simply do it yourself. I know that there's like, you know, if you just sit there in silence and try to like meditate and clear your mind, it's really beneficial for your mental health, and it's really good to get away from kind of the go, go, go that we're often trapped in the days. You know, we're constantly trying to be productive, do this, do that. And sometimes it's good just to be able to take a little breather and just be able to say, I am calm, I am here, there's no reason to panic. Now, number 18 is kind of similar to reading a book, and this is reading poetry. Now, I know this is not everybody's cup of tea, but everything is not everyone's cup of tea. So I personally like reading poetry. I get just like the little poetry books from like Target, Barnes and Noble, the ones that have like the line drawings on them. I know Rupi Kaur is like one of my favorite poets that they write a lot of poems that I really like. Amanda Lovelace is another one. I really like her stuff as well. But just any poetry that you like. You can even look up poems online if you really want to, or write your own if you're, you know, a poet and you didn't know it. And it's really easy to find relatability in poems, in my opinion, and it's really easy to kind of get sucked into them. Like, I know that some people don't really like it and they don't see the point in it, but in my opinion, if you give it a chance and you read through them, you can find a lot of relatability, and sometimes it'll even be like deep relatability, you know, like you'll start like tearing up at it a little bit, but maybe that's just me because I'm a crybaby. Number 19 is another physical hobby, which is taking a walk. Now this sounds, oh yeah, let me go take a walk instead of, you know, going on my phone. But really, taking a walk can be super beneficial to your mental health, especially if you are somewhere where it's sunny, which I guess it's not sunny anywhere all the time, but just being able to see nature and be outside, get some fresh air, not always being stuck inside, especially like exposed to a screen all the time, getting some natural vitamin D is really important to boosting the serotonin levels in your mind. And overall, it just helps with your cardiovascular health, it helps with your mental health, it helps so many things to just take, and it doesn't have to be a long walk. You could literally go, like, if you have a cul-de-sac at the end of your road, you can literally go down, loop around the cul-de-sac, walk back up to your house, and you just take a walk, and you'll honestly feel good about it after. Now, number 20 is listening to a podcast or audiobooks. Now, I know I briefly touched on audiobooks in the reading a book section, but I feel like listening to an audiobook or listening to a podcast is such a different experience than reading, because I feel like reading can sometimes cause not strain in your eyes, but like it takes effort to read an actual physical book. Whereas listening to an audiobook and listening to a podcast, I usually listen to podcasts when I am doing my makeup in the morning. I find that it's really calming and relaxing, and it's very like, I don't want to say mind numbing because not all podcasts are like that, but the podcasts that I listen to are very like nice, supportive, just talking about like how to be a better person, stuff like that. And it's very motivating. It's a great way to start your day. But listening to a podcast at any time of the day is really good, and you can get a lot of information by just listening to things rather than having to like watch it, do something else, hear it, you know, all of those things. Sometimes you can do something else while just listening to something and you'll still retain all that information. Number 21 is doing a puzzle or a crossword. Now, I personally have like a personal vendetta against puzzles. I don't know why, because I swear I used to like them, but puzzles and me go together like oil and water. Like, I hate puzzles. That's not to say, like, if you guys love puzzles, I'm sure, like, you know, like some people love them. I've met plenty of people that really like puzzles, but in my opinion, they are just so like tedious, and I can't, like I said, I'm kind of a perfectionist, so if I can't get it within like that day, you best believe I'm staying up for 24 hours to finish that puzzle. Like, I'm not going to sleep and finishing it the next day. That puzzle's getting done before anybody else does anything. I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm not drinking until that puzzle is done. So it's probably just me, because I'm an extreme person. But a puzzle can be really fun. I know for some people it's really calming just to find puzzle pieces, and they don't have to be intricate, they don't have to be hard. You can literally do like a simple puzzle. And crosswords, I feel like I just don't know enough about stuff to be able to do crosswords successfully. But if you're knowledgeable about like the world, and honestly, now that I think about it, I know they do make crosswords for like niches. Like, you can find crosswords, like you could do a fashion crossword, for example, or you could do like a movie crossword, like a Marvel Universe crossword, you know, one that revolves around certain things, so at least you have somewhere to start. But for me, typically, just regular crosswords, I have no idea, especially if they don't have a key. Like, you know, if they don't have somewhere where you can like go and see the actual answers to like check them, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life worrying that I got that crossword wrong. Like, but they can be very fun for some people. I know some people also like Sudokus, and that can be really, I guess, brain games kind of, but it's like on a physical piece of paper. I think that could be really fun too. Now, number 22 is gardening, and this is something that I kind of want to get into probably like in a few years, not quite yet. I just don't think I'd be really good at it yet. But gardening is really beneficial in a lot of aspects. Number one, you get to spend time with plants, which is very beneficial for your mental health. And then you can grow stuff, which saves you money. So that's awesome. If you start like, I mean, I probably wouldn't start like super big with gardening, but if you want to get really into it, you can eventually grow like your own fruits and vegetables. And that's like, that saves you a ton of money going to a store, you know what I'm saying? And you know what's in it. It's organic. You have it right there. You grew it yourself. Like, you know that there's no GMOs in it or anything like that. I just think it could be really beneficial for your physical health and obviously your mental health. And I just think that being able to help something grow, and like you saw it from a little sapling, it's almost like raising like, not a child, but like maybe like an animal, you know, like raising like a dog or a cat. And you saw it when it was like a little sapling, and then you grow it to like this huge thing, and then it starts producing fruits and vegetables, showing that you gave it enough love for it to do that. That's just like mind-blowing to me. Now, number 23 is scrapbooking. And I know that this might seem a little silly in wake of the fact that we are such a digital generation and we're in such a digital time right now. Why would you have a physical scrapbook? But for me, it is so fun to buy like cute stickers, to buy like cute little papers, patterns, to draw little things around the pictures. And it also encourages me to take more pictures, because I'm somebody who just, I don't really like to take a lot of pictures, not necessarily of like myself or my family, just like in general. So when I'm doing something, I'm much more likely to just like enjoy it in the moment, and then afterwards be like, oh my gosh, I didn't get any pictures of it. Through scrapbooking, it has definitely encouraged me more to take pictures of things, because I'm like, oh, I could put that in my scrapbook. So being able to do that and then looking back at your year like in a scrapbook while you're working on it and stuff like that is just so fun. And I just want to like keep some so that one day I can show them to my kids and be like, this was, you know, my life before you. Like, I just think that's such a cool like little almost time capsule thing, and it can just really show you all that you do in a year, and it can really make you more grateful for the things that you were able to do. Now, number 24 is kind of similar to the baking one, and it's kind of similar to cooking, but it's basically just trying a new recipe. Now, that can be baking if you want it to be, or it can be something like really simple if you're not like a big chef like me. I can't even, you don't want to get me in the kitchen is what I'm saying, but I'm trying. So trying a new recipe is a really good way to figure out your tastes and things. It's a really good way to practice cooking, which I desperately need. And it's a really good way to just kind of like, again, doing something and then getting something from doing it is one of that like instant gratification kind of thing. It helps you feel good about yourself when you get things done. So you can do like really simple recipes. You can search special recipes if you like certain flavors or certain techniques if you are more well-versed in cooking than I am. And something that I really like to do is look up like kind of themed recipes. So I like cute things. So like I'll look up like, you know, Disney recipes, or like things that I see in movies, like how to replicate that, and TV shows and stuff like that, because that is what's going to motivate me to actually do it, because I'm like, oh, I want it to look like that and I want to know what that tastes like. We are at number 25. This is the last one. I've kept your guys' attention for a long time. So number 25 is practicing writing. Now, this can mean a lot of different things. If you really like creative writing, this could mean creatively writing and just practicing with like writing prompts and stuff. But what I more meant was I like to practice my handwriting. And now, again, this seems kind of silly in the wake of a digital age where we don't really use our handwriting a lot. However, I think it's kind of a flex to have good handwriting. And I think that being able to like the way that your handwriting looks on a piece of paper is something to be proud of, especially cursive writing. Because there's one thing to have nice handwriting, there's another thing to have nice cursive writing and like a nice signature. Having a nice signature is the biggest flex, because my signature still looks like I'm in 5th grade. Like when we first practiced our signatures, mine never changed. It always stayed the same, and it still kind of looks like it did then. So I just think being able to practice with that is really important, and it's really easy to do. Again, just a piece of paper, a pencil, pen, anything like that. and you can either look up something that you want to duplicate or just practice it over and over again. And what I do is, like, when you see like a letter and you're like, oh, that looks kind of funky, just keep writing that letter until you like how it looks, and then you'll get that muscle memory in your wrist of like, this is the flicks that I need to do to make this letter look like this. And you could just practice as much as you want. And I just think it's something that will be beneficial because you'll have better handwriting, which, even though we don't use handwriting that much, we still use it enough that I think it's beneficial to do. And it can help improve your signature, which we do use even on like those little tablets and stuff. Even though nobody's signature ever looks good on those, at least you can try. It'll be better than it currently is, probably, unless you have a really good signature already, but can't relate. And then it also just helps you to get better at something and to put your time and effort into something that will be beneficial in the long run. All right, guys, so that is everything that I think you can do instead of scrolling on your phone. Obviously, there's an infinite number of things you could do instead of scrolling on your phone. It's really about personal preference, but these are some things that I like to do or that I think are really good alternatives that kind of give you that dopamine. And let me know down below which one of these activities is your favorite or that you really want to try. And if you have any others that I didn't name, I'd love to hear them. Always trying to get into new hobbies. That'd be great. And yeah, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.